Ever watched something so intense it left you emotionally shaken for days? Now imagine that film starring your own father, a man you love, admire, and see as your protector. That's the emotional crossroads where Lily-Rose Depp found herself. Her experience wasn't just about watching a movie, it was about confronting a painful collision between personal reality and artistic performance. What was meant to be a cinematic experience transformed into an emotional wound, one that haunted her and shaped how she viewed both her father and the world of acting. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is layered, haunting, and packed with emotional depth. It's the kind of narrative that peels back the polished Hollywood surface to reveal the raw human experience underneath. We're diving into Lily-Rose Depp's emotional revelation about suffering psychological trauma after watching her father, Johnny Depp, in one of his darkest roles. It wasn't just unsettling, it was damaging. Not because she saw something inappropriate, but because she saw too much. Too much pain. Too much darkness. Too much vulnerability. And it came from someone she trusted the most. Johnny Depp has long been known for his transformative, all-in performances. From Captain Jack Sparrow to Edward Scissorhands, he's created iconic characters that stick with audiences. But The Libertine, the 2004 drama where Depp plays John Wilmot, the second Earl of Rochester, isn't your typical period piece. It's a descent into hedonism, madness, and decay. The film's rawness doesn't glamorize debauchery, it explores it with unflinching honesty. Depp's portrayal is intense, physically and emotionally draining, and deeply disturbing. For audiences, it was gripping. For Lily-Rose, it was traumatic. She was just a child when the film came out. Not quite old enough to grasp all the adult themes, yet just aware enough to understand that what she was seeing wasn't fiction to her, it was her dad. The man playing this tormented, crumbling figure on screen was the same man who tucked her in at night, made her breakfast, and told her bedtime stories. It's difficult to explain the psychological impact of seeing someone you love transform so fully into a version of themselves that feels broken, vile, and even dangerous. Even when it's all make-believe, a child's brain doesn't always make that distinction. Lily-Rose has spoken candidly about this emotional whiplash. She's explained that it wasn't so much that she thought her father was the character, but rather, it was the realization that he could become that character, and do it so convincingly. That realization shook her. It wasn't just about watching a movie. It was about watching her father abandon himself, if only temporarily, to embody someone profoundly damaged. The screen didn't feel like a barrier between art and life. It felt like a window, one she was too young to peer through. Imagine being a child and seeing your hero collapse on screen, devolve into addiction and misery, and express nihilism with every breath. It's not a scene you just forget. The emotional aftermath isn't just confusion, it's betrayal, in a way. A betrayal of the safety and innocence that every child clings to when they look at their parents. When Lily watched The Libertine, she wasn't just disturbed by the themes. She was devastated by how convincingly her father seemed to suffer, and more disturbingly, by how that suffering seemed to mirror elements of real life that she hadn't yet fully understood. This becomes even more complex when you consider Johnny Depp's real-life struggles, battles with addiction, tabloid scandals, lawsuits, and a public persona that has often walked the line between misunderstood artist and troubled star. For Lily-Rose, watching The Libertine may have opened emotional floodgates she wasn't ready to face. Suddenly, the line between the tortured character and the flawed father blurred. Even if her logical mind knew it was fiction, the emotional impact told a different story. Children of actors often grow up around film sets and scripts, but nothing quite prepares them for the emotional gut punch of seeing a parent in distress, even if it's just pretend. And Lily-Rose, being introspective and sensitive by nature, absorbed every frame. According to those close to her, she couldn't shake the images of her father descending into madness, of his character being consumed by the very demons Johnny himself had publicly battled. It was art imitating life, or life imitating art, and the emotional consequences were real. Psychologists explain that children, especially those in emotionally volatile environments, can have strong empathetic reactions when witnessing intense behavior from their parents, even in fictional contexts. Dar. Sandra Connors, a child psychologist with decades of experience in family trauma, notes that for children of artists, emotional boundaries can become dangerously porous. When a child watches a parent portray deep suffering or self-harm on screen, she says, they don't just see a character. They feel the pain as if it were happening in their own home. That's what Lily-Rose reportedly felt, not intellectual confusion, but emotional grief. As she grew older and began to reflect on those experiences, she came to terms with how much that film had scarred her emotionally. It wasn't the content alone. It was the way the performance invaded her sense of reality. She's spoken about how it reshaped her understanding of acting, not as pretend play, but as something dangerous, transformative, and at times, deeply unsettling. This may explain why Lily-Rose has gravitated toward complex, boundary-pushing roles herself. Her performance in The Idol, a provocative HBO series that drew both criticism and praise, was unapologetically raw. Some have speculated that her willingness to take on such roles is her way of reclaiming control over the emotional landscape that once overwhelmed her. Others believe it's her tribute to the immersive artistry she saw in her father, an attempt to understand, maybe even exorcise, the demons that once haunted her through performance. Her relationship with Johnny Depp remains close, by all public accounts. She's stood by him during his legal battles and personal crises. But make no mistake, the emotional impact of watching him collapse on screen left a lasting impression. It wasn't about losing love or respect. It was about discovering, too soon, the emotional cost of art. And once you understand that, you can never unsee it. This story also opens up a larger conversation about the emotional consequences of fame, not just for celebrities, but for their families. The children of stars live with a bizarre duality. They are both public figures and private citizens, expected to absorb their parents' personas while also establishing identities of their own. For Lily-Rose, growing up meant not just navigating the spotlight, but processing deeply personal reactions to her father's public work. Michael Gandolfini, son of The Sopranos star James Gandolfini, shared a similar struggle. He confessed that it took him years to watch his father's work because seeing him in violent, manipulative roles made him feel emotionally unsafe, even posthumously. It's a reminder that artistic legacy can be both a gift and a curse. For the children of actors, the screen is never just entertainment, it's a mirror, a memory, a ghost. This brings us to the larger question, can acting go too far? And when it does, who bears the consequences? Method actors pride themselves on living their characters, on losing themselves in the role. But when that role is steeped in suffering, addiction, and despair, the transformation can leave emotional wreckage behind, not just for the actor, but for those who love them. In Johnny Depp's case, The Libertine may have earned critical acclaim, but the hidden cost was paid by his daughter. Lily-Rose's openness about this trauma is commendable. In a culture where celebrity families are often idealized or pathologized, her honesty breaks the mold. It shows that pain and vulnerability exist behind the glamour, that even the children of the rich and famous aren't immune to emotional scars. Her story is one of resilience, of confronting emotional wounds and using them to forge a path forward. Today, Lily-Rose is carving out her own identity in Hollywood, no longer just Johnny Depp's daughter, but an actress in her own right. Her performances show nuance, fearlessness, and a surprising emotional depth, the kind that only comes from having lived through something profound. In interviews, she's described acting as a form of therapy, a space where she can explore complex emotions without fear. Maybe that's her way of reclaiming what once frightened her, turning trauma into power. And this evolution brings us full circle. From a young girl traumatized by her father's performance to a woman embracing the same medium to express her truth, Lily-Rose represents the strange poetry of the artistic journey. Art can harm, but it can also heal. It can wound, but it can also empower. Her story isn't just about trauma, it's about transformation. So now we turn to you. Can art ever be too real? Is there a point where performance crosses a line, not just for the audience, but for those closest to the performer? And what does it mean to grow up in a world where your parents' most disturbing moments are immortalized on film? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Have you ever seen a performance so emotionally intense that it changed the way you viewed someone you knew? Or perhaps you've had a moment where fiction blurred so deeply with reality that it left a scar. These are the stories we want to hear, because they remind us that behind every headline, behind every performance, and behind every celebrity family, there are real people, living real lives, with real emotions. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more stories that go beyond the tabloid drama. We're here to unpack the humanity behind the fame, and trust us, there's always more than meets the eye. Coming up next, we'll explore how other celebrity children have navigated the heavy legacies left by their parents' careers, and how some, like Lily-Rose, have turned emotional adversity into a powerful artistic voice. Because sometimes, the greatest performances don't happen on screen. They happen in real life, when someone finds the courage to confront their pain and keep going anyway. Thanks for watching, and remember, behind every role, every headline, and every famous name is a beating heart, struggling just like the rest of us. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and we'll see you in the next one.